And that's why the pirate crossed the road. Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys use the magic of the internet to watch random movies and hopefully they're good. With me as always is the Abbott to my Costello, the Keegan-Michael Key to my Jordan Peele, the wonderful, the amazing, the very old Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn.
Check! Sorry, anybody who has watched my recommendation later will know what that is. Good movie? Did we get a good movie?
Not interested? Not even a little bit?
You know, with 90% or better on Rotten Tomatoes every time, you'd think we'd get something good, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about it. It's not bad. It's better than the last movie. It's better than Zombie Rednecks.
Yes, it was. Or better than Redneck Zombies. It's better than either of those.
I don't even remember what it was called.
But there was a cool marijuana smoking dog in there, though.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was fun. But what did we watch then?
We watched Babes in Toyland from 1934, starring Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy.
Indeed. This is a movie based off of a 1903 operetta by Victor Herbert. And a little background, it contains 6 of the original songs. One of them is an instrumental. And I noticed that most of the songs are sung by the two main characters, not Laurel and Hardy, but the two, the boy and girl, Peep, Tom and Bo Peep. We can get more into about this film afterwards. What's your snowball pitch here?
Take a classic children's tale and put into beloved comedians.
How about take all of the classic children's tales and take all of the characters from them and put into beloved comedians.
Mother Goose sort of mashup, yeah.
Well, and speaking of Mother Goose, that's how it opens up.
That's true.
Mother Goose singing to us. And we get her singing right at the beginning, and this is where the song Toyland comes from, which I'm sure you've all heard. Toyland, Toyland.
Kyle's not a great singer.
No, I'm not. I never claimed to be. This is not a singing podcast. So Mother Goose comes out and she's singing that, and she opens up like this giant book, and it's kind of cool because then for the opening credits or whatever and the cast, we have actual video inside the book, and then written in the book is the name of the character and the actor. So I thought it was kind of cool effects for 1934.
The cat and the fiddle, Little Bo Peep. Pied Piper.
Tom. I don't know Tom. Who is that supposed to be?
And Mr. whatever.
Barnaby.
Mr.
Barnaby Barnacle or something like
yes.
that. And so it's showing the people in Toyland, and then we go into Toyland, and it's basically just a storybook land, and, you know, there are giant toys.
It's just like Storybrooke from the hit TV show Once Upon a Time.
I didn't watch much of that. I did watch a little bit, but
it went off the rails pretty quick.
But you get a lot of different characters from stories. Like you see, it's going through, and there's like the kids' blocks, like the ABC blocks, but they're really big in the town. And then like in front of one store, there's like giant ink wells and, you know, books as book spines for doorways and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fun production design for sure.
Actually, Stan Laurel, I was reading that he loved the set so much that he was kind of disappointed that they didn't do it in Technicolor. They decided to go in black and white.
Really?
Yeah. But you see stuff like Little Miss Muffet, Little Miss Muffet. She's sitting on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. And then there's a little spider.
And then she gets bit by a radioactive spider.
And she becomes Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
And then you see little Jack Horner in the corner, like pulling his thumb out of a pie or whatever. And I think that's actually a cameo from Charlie Rogers, the director.
Interesting. Was he?
Oh, no. He was Simple Simon.
Oh, of course. Simple Simon. Who was Simple Simon?
Simple Simon met the pieman.
And he said things?
Yes. Do you not know your nursery rhymes?
I'm a little off. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, and I did like the The baby in the treetop for the Rockabye Baby band.
Just hanging out. Baby's having a good time.
Oh, that baby's going to hurt when that bow breaks. They have the three little pigs in their brick and straw and what is it? The third one is, I don't know, clay. I don't know.
Yeah.
In their little huts. But they were just people in rubber pig masks.
And
they looked
creepy as all heck.
They were really creepy.
Then there was a guy in a cat costume and a guy in a mouse costume.
Yeah. We'll get to them later because
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, they're the Tom and Jerry of the group here. We go to the old woman in the shoe, which is, she had so many children she didn't know what to do. Well, we find out in this story that Bo Peep is one of her children.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. So then she's Mrs. Peep?
Yeah, they called. I think in the credits somewhere it said Widow Peep.
Oh, what happened to Mr. Peep?
I don't know. I just kept calling her Ma Peep in my notes.
Mm-hmm. Ma.
And Bo Peep is her daughter, and then we got Barnaby, who's a creeper that I put.
And he's like the local landlord. He's like the Scrooge of the group.
He's hanging the mortgage over Ma Peep's head, saying,
Yep.
"I'm gonna marry your daughter, or else I'm gonna collect on this mortgage, and if you don't have the money, you're out on the street. Better give me your daughter."
Yeah. You've got like 30 other kids.
She's got like 30 other kids, but then Stan and Ollie are also staying with them.
Maybe she's got like a couple extra beds. She needed to rent them out.
That could be. Because they do have a job at the toy shop.
Yeah.
So. But they are Stanny Dumb and Ollie D.
Yep.
So we got our Tweedledum Tweedledee here. They're staying with her, and Bo Peep does not want to marry the creeper. So...
why is that? Why on earth would she not want to marry this guy who's at least like 30 years older than her,
which,
and then
ironically,
doesn't treat people very well?
He was actually 21 when he filmed this.
Acting.
It was acting. It was a good acting because he seemed like a creepy old man.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like a hunch too, like he walked with like a bit of a hunch and his head tilted. And
I was half expecting him to be Igor and tell someone to walk this way, but then I was also expecting him to be like the child napper from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Esmeralda is dead, so he's going after Bo Peep now.
Oh boy.
He finally got out of the pit. That book is weird if you've never read it.
I know that it ends in like the most horrible way possible.
Yeah, it does.
Everyone dies and they're really sad about it.
And he basically just sits there with her dead body, and if I remember correctly, he's so in love with her that he just sits there until waits to die too.
Yep. And then like his skeleton is hugging her skeleton or something.
Yeah. That's way more depressing than this movie though.
Yes.
Stan and Ollie come downstairs, and they're kind of like an Abbott and Costello.
They were Abbott and Costello before Abbott and Costello.
They were. You got
one of the original comedy duos with the silver screen.
The fat man and the skinny man.
Yep.
Routine. Only they were a little more. Both of them were a little more comedic, whereas with Abbott and Costello, Abbott.
Yeah, Abbott.
Abbott, the skinny one, is the straight guy.
Yeah.
The
straight man is the funny man. So.
Yeah. Whereas these guys were both funny men, but they still played off of each other really well. Mm-hmm. They decide they're going to go get an advance from their boss.
They got to pay the mortgage. The mortgage, I'll help you. Stanny, go get my money. Go get my money pouch or whatever. So goes upstairs and brings it back down. It was like, so then he opens the money pouch and it just says, and what does it say?
I owe you $1.48.
Yeah, I owe you $1.48.
That's gonna pay your mortgage, man. I wish I could buy a house like that.
Yeah, it's before inflation really kicked in.
So Stan had used all his money for his Pee-wee, and apparently this was a real toy in the 30s.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like this little oblong thing that you put on the ground, and you hit it with a stick, and it pops up in the air, and you're supposed to whack it with a stick and see who can hit it the furthest.
Huh.
So, yeah, I was surprised to learn that was an actual toy, but I mean, I guess it makes sense.
I suppose.
Only in this movie, he hits it and it goes around a chimney and comes back to him.
He's really good at it.
he's got the boomerang Pee-wee.
So now it's like, okay, well, now we got to go to work and make money. It's like, oh, but before we make money, how do we get the mortgage money today? What if we just get an advance from our boss? Because the boss and I are like this.
Yeah.
And when he says like this, he takes 2 fingers and puts them together.
And then Stan asks him which one you are. This might be why this movie is played during the holidays. Because when they go to work, they work at a toy factory. And it's like Santa's toy shop. Because Santa shows up later asking about some toys, but it's only July according to this movie.
Yeah.
So it's only incidental that they work at Santa's toy shop.
Yeah, it's just like, like, who do they work for? I guess they work for Santa, you know?
But that's turned this into a kind of a Thanksgiving, Christmas, like, holiday movie yearly.
Yep.
The toy maker's in a bad mood when they get there, and they are not like this.
No, not at all. They're the opposite of that.
And so he's in a foul mood, and then we cut to Bo Peep, who has lost her sheep.
So, again,
Tom comes and is like, you lost him 5 times last month. We'll get him again. Look, stop crying.
That's
Jeez.
cool.
It's just normal. You're Bo Peep. You lose your sheep.
That's your thing.
If you didn't lose your sheep, we wouldn't have the nursery
before
ride.
She left this morning, he's like, don't lose your sheep today, Bo Peep. Okay, Mom.
God damn it, I didn't listen.
Should have done it. I should have listened.
And Tom assures her that they will find them. And how does he do this?
By singing a song.
And then everybody in Storyland comes and joins
to sing
him.
a song and to lull and search for these lost sheep. And then we find out the real lost sheep were the friends we made along the way.
They end up at the pond or whatever looking for him. And then
the stockades.
At the stockades. I'm going, why are there stockades in the Toyland? But apparently they come in useful later.
There's got to be some law and order in Toyland.
Because he puts her feet into them and sits on it and says, I'm not letting you go until you marry me. Apparently Bo Peep is really popular with the men.
She might be the only eligible bachelorette. Maybe she is on The Bachelorette.
She is the Toyland Bachelorette.
The Toyland Bachelorette. Is Chris Harrison going to be there?
Do you want Tom or Little Jack Horner? Or would you go for creepy old Barnaby?
Or Stupid Simon or whatever?
Simple Simon.
Or maybe the Bogeyman. We'll get to them.
Oh, yes, the Bogeyman. There's all sorts of bogeymen.
We'll get to them later.
Yeah. She actually agrees to marry Tom, though, even though he puts her in a stockade and says he's not letting her go.
So I guess that's a really case of, like, super fast Stockholm Syndrome?
I think so. It's very quick Stockholm Syndrome.
Speed Stockholm, you know.
That's speed dating right there.
Oh, yeah.
So while he's macking on her, the whole town shows up behind him with their sheep, and they're all staring when he's about to give her a kiss.
They're all singing a nice song.
Oh, look they were behind us with the sheep.
So this scene kind of illustrates my real main issue with this movie is that it seems like there's almost like 2 separate movies going on kind of mashed together. So we get to like a scene of plot, and then we get a scene of Laurel and Hardy doing something funny. And then we get to a scene of plot, and then we get to a scene of Laurel and Hardy doing something funny. And then they don't really seem to intersect as much. They don't really ever seem to propel the plot.
Yeah, because the one plot is Bo Peep and Tom wanting to get together. But they do intersect in a way that it's Bo Peep and Tom wanting to get together, and then it's Laurel and Hardy stopping Barnaby from, putting Ma Peep out on the street. But they intersect in the fact that Barnaby is going to marry Bo Peep if he doesn't get the money for the mortgage. So, I suppose that's how they go together.
I don't know.
But they do feel
very disparate plot points.
Yeah, they cut back and forth, and I agree, because Stan and Ollie are like more just comedy routines going on, and then the other one is like a serious singing love, plot.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also cut to the cat and the mouse, which is creepy.
Yeah,
it's a big cat a man in a big cat costume.
Yeah,
and that's a little creepy. So costumes in 1934. What are you gonna do?
Some are great, some are not so great.
And then the mouse is it looks like it's a monkey in a mouse suit, and I think it is.
Oh, yeah?
That's because there was a close-up at one point, and you could see the tail underneath the mouse tail. So, like, I believe it was a monkey in a mouse suit.
Or a toddler.
I don't think it was a toddler.
Maybe it was a toddler monkey.
But the mouse suit looks like Mickey Mouse.
Did kind of look like Mickey Mouse.
And from what I read, that might not be coincidence. That might actually... I read somewhere that this is like the only non-Disney movie that the likeness of Mickey Mouse has like been allowed to be in that way.
Interesting.
And because apparently they also use something else from Disney. The Three Pigs song, "Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf?"
Yeah, that's from a Disney short.
That is from a Disney short, and Walt Disney is a close friend to the producer, Hal Roach.
Interesting.
And he was a big fan of Stan and Ollie. So he let them use "Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf" in here. Just a snippet of it in instrumental form.
Huh.
So
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so apparently Walt Disney was a fan of Stan and Ollie, and he was a close friend to Hal Roach.
That's cool.
But after the cat and mouse, we go back to the toy store again. And we find out he comes in, he's like, well, did you get that order of 600 soldiers at 1 foot tall? And they're like, oh, I thought you said 100 soldiers at 6 feet tall.
Wah, wah, wah. It's like the Stonehenge gag, and this is Spinal Tap.
I don't remember that. It's
been
so long.
We want a 10-foot arch, not a 1 foot arch, not a 10-inch arch.
So we see the 6 foot soldier come out, like it's just a man dressed in a soldier costume, and you push a button on the back and it goes, and it just marches through and just destroys the toy shop.
Those things are like, it's like an army of Terminators. They will not stop.
It walks through the wall in the back.
Just blasting through things. It's a reverse Kool-Aid Man. It just always breaks out walls.
So needless to say, they didn't get the loan from the advance from the toy maker.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they got fired for that.
Again.
I'm sure they're probably fired from a lot of jobs.
Oh, yeah.
So then they use the Trojan horse routine to get into Barnaby's house to steal the mortgage from him.
Yeah, steal the mortgage back.
So, like, apparently if you, like, just get a hold of the mortgage, you don't have to pay it anymore. So, like, if I go to my bank and steal my mortgage contract, I don't have to pay it anymore.
Of course, because
I own it.
Yeah.
It's like, there it is.
Like the deed to your house or something.
All right, I'm going to have to store that in my memory bank.
All right.
Just
make sure you don't get overdrawn at the memory bank.
Oh, who was in that movie? That
was
Raul Julia. So it's the middle of July, and they use a Trojan horse, which actually it's a Trojan present.
It's a present, yeah, where Stan puts Ollie in a present, puts it in wheels, and they're going to sneak it into Mr. Barnaby's house. Like, oh, Mr. Barnaby, we got you a Christmas present.
And then he's going to break in when Barnaby goes to sleep.
But it's July. Well, that's okay. You don't we always celebrate in July here in Toyland.
It's Toyland. I mean, it's Toyland. You're going to get
Toyland,
toys.
Yeah. Not the Yeah, but where's Keanu Reeves? Okay, so
he was in a remake, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's a 1986 version with Keanu Reeves when he's still in his Bill and Ted phase.
Oh, I might need to see that one.
It's also on Amazon Prime.
I'm going to have to watch that one.
It's interesting. They sing a song about Cincinnati, Ohio.
Did he travel there in a phone booth?
No, they go there in like a car in the middle of a snowstorm or something.
So anyway, this was a good portion.
Now you're just going to be thinking about the Keanu Reeves for the rest of the show.
I am. Stan says goodnight to Barnaby. He's like, okay, good night. Good night.
Good night, Barnaby. And then, of course, Stan goes, good night, Ollie.
And Ollie pops his head out.
Pops his head out of the box and goes, good night, Stanny. And there's just a pause.
Barnaby's all pissed because, oh, man, you're trying to trick me.
Trying to burglarize my house again, aren't you?
So then Stan and Ollie are charged with breaking and entering or or attempted robbery or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And they have to go to they called it the ducking pond.
Basically, there was an ancient form of, I think it was like a medieval form of punishment where you would be put in, like, tied to this chair, and then you'd be put underwater a bunch of times.
But the funny thing is that they torture them and then they're going to exile them. I'm going, you have to torture them first? Like, in a children's movie?
Yeah, well, children's movies. Yeah.
But it's all for
It's
laughs.
very pro-torture movie.
It's all for laughs when when Ollie is underwater for like 6 minutes, like, and Stan looks down at the water and like he's like thinking about jumping in to save him, but he never does.
Yeah.
And he yells at the guards, "Hurry up! He's gonna die of pneumonia." I thought that was a great morbid line. He's drowning.
Then, once they're brought up, then they're exiled. But the best part is that like, wait a minute, after all this, Stan, you're not gonna get wet? No, I don't think so. And then Ollie just pushes Stan in the water.
And he's like, "Hey, remember that watch you had me hold while you went in the water? I still got it." Stan's a jerk. He stole his money, got his watch wet.
Man.
They didn't have to get exiled, though, because Bo Peep agreed to marry Barnaby to have them go free. And, sorry, that was a text.
Oh. Turn your phone off.
Go over their phone. And so
take it out of the studio.
They were going to be exiled to Bogeyland.
Yeah.
And they described the bogeyman or the bogeymen as like big, ferocious looking furry creatures with huge claws and teeth. And then Ollie turns around. This was earlier when they're describing it. Ollie turns around and sees the cat sitting behind him and gets freaked out. You know what? I'd be freaked out too if I saw that thing standing behind me.
It's a very large, creepy cat.
So Bo Peep agrees to marry Barnaby. Ma Peep pleads to Barnaby. She's like, don't take my baby.
It's like, fine. He's like, oh, I will marry you. It's okay. But I got to get ready first.
Yeah. And then.
So then we see them having a nice dinner and, Stan and Ollie are, sort of, it's like, oh, it's just Stan. They're all dressed up. Ollie's in like a top hat. And he just goes, oh, Bo Peep, I'm happy to be your best man, but I don't want to give you away to Barnaby. It's okay. It's to save the house,
Yeah. And Stan is saying, he's not going to go to the wedding. Apparently he has a prior engagement.
He just wants there to be an open bar.
There's no drinks. I ain't going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all part of their master plan to go into the wedding. And Barnaby marries and
marries Bo Peep, but of course, she's wearing this big veil where you can't really see anything.
Can't see her face at all.
Do you take this, woman to be a lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you take this man? Yeah, I do. That sort of thing. And then, all right, you may now kiss the bride. Veil goes up. And, of course, it's Stan instead of Bo Peep.
Barnaby married Stan.
But, of course, right before the ceremony, he gave over the mortgage to Ollie, and Ollie rips it up.
So therefore, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
The shoe is Ma Peep's.
Exactly.
She wins. What did after that, Tom goes and sings to Bo Peep again.
And they all leave, and everyone's happy. And he's like, well, you can't leave. Well, why can't I leave, Ollie? Well, Stan, it's because you married him. But I don't want to be married to Barnaby.
This sucks. I want a divorce. It
was a very, very bitter divorce. Tough settlement on both ends.
And that was the rest of the movie.
Yep, it was just this really sad divorce case where they're dividing their Beanie Babies under advice from a judge.
But apparently Barnaby is fine and just leaves because he goes to steal one of the 3 pigs and he plants evidence at Tom's house. It's
because frame someone for murder.
Yeah, he puts sausage links there.
Yeah, to make it look like he ate him.
And so then there's a big trial for Tom, so he's going to be banished to Bogeyland, and they've got him in the stockade there, and Stan and Ollie get a hold of the evidence somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, because the guard comes out of the building. He's like, "Oh, here, hold on to this evidence for me. I got to go take care of something." He was a very irresponsible guard.
Very irresponsible guard.
And so Stan starts eating it.
Because, what else are you going to do with a bunch of sausage links?
He said, Ollie's like, that's the evidence. Stan goes, well, this doesn't taste like pig. It tastes like pork. But then Ollie eats it and says it tastes like beef. So something's fishy.
Aha! It can't be the little pig. Now, where is he? Then little pig was kidnapped and in like the cellar of the Barnaby or something.
It tastes like lamb. It was one of Bo Peep's.
No!
Tom, before they get the evidence back to the guards, and Tom gets banished to Bogeyland, and he runs into all the bogeymen.
They kind of reminded me of the Morlocks from the 1960s version of.
That's
the Time
exactly what I
Machine,
was thinking too.
except without the green eyes.
Yeah. And Bo Peep goes after Tom Tom, and of course to get away from the bogeyman, they sing in the caves.
Yep, and they sing a song about rolling dice and with the oogie boogie something something.
The boogie oogie oogie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like, their relationship
And then
would be really
Santa Claus or something.
their relationship would be really annoying in public because every time they're together, they're singing.
Yeah, they're like that one couple. They're like that one Instagram couple, or that you just see them post on Facebook and Instagram constantly. You're just like, we get it. You guys are super in love. Your lives are perfect. Then you just turn off your notifications so you never see them again.
But while they're singing in the cave, Barnaby goes out there and gives a big chase through the caves because they chased him out of town. No, he went down a well
Yeah.
and got out of town because they were all chasing him.
Yep. So then he recruits the bogeyman to attack the town or something.
And I was wondering, like, is he in cahoots with them before? Because he just all of a sudden recruits all of them, like they don't attack him. Or maybe they're like, he's a creepy dude and we're all creepy dudes.
Maybe he owns their mortgage too.
If you don't pay the mortgage on this cave or help me destroy Toyland, then I'm going to kick you out of the caves.
Exactly.
He brings him back, and Stan and Ollie went back to the toy shop and found some darts.
So then they load darts in a cannon and then just try and,
Well, first he uses the Pee-wee trick where he just sits there like instead of throwing darts at the bogeyman, he's setting them down on the ground, hitting them with a stick, and then whacking them across the Toyland.
It's more accurate than you might think.
He was very accurate. He was hitting all of them in the backsides.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite impressed. And then they decide to bring out all the wooden soldiers too.
Yep.
And that was actually pretty good effects too, because they did
first
stop
when they're
motion.
marching out together, it starts as stop motion, and then it transitions into
And it was a
people in
split screen
costumes.
stop motion too, because on the left side it was stop motion toys, and then the other side it was Stan and Ollie the same height as the toys.
Yeah, just watching
them go down the or out the door. So that was pretty good effects for then.
Yep, and then now the big action scene is where all the toys are slowly marching and fighting off all the bogeymen, and they were kind of marching through everything, even when like their bayonets partially break off, or like even when one of them loses a head, they keep going.
And the Monkey Mouse flies a blimp. He finds a little toy blimp and gets up in there, and then it gets
throwing bombs,
and then it gets hit by a dart and goes down like the Hindenburg.
Yep, and he dies in the explosion. It's very sad.
No, the creepy Monkey Mouse lives.
Unfortunately.
Then they put all of the darts into this cannon, and they're gonna chase all the bogeymen out, and they got them all out of the gate of the town. So they drove them all out, and then he puts all the darts in the cannon and aims it over the fence, and instead it turns around and all of them shoot into Ollie's back.
Yuck.
Because darts in the back are funny.
And then Ollie dies of blood loss or something.
Blood loss and gets tetanus.
Blood loss and tetanus.
But that's how it ends, is Stan like picking needles out of Ollie's back or darts.
But it's okay. Everything's happy. They sing a happy song.
Yeah. And everyone gets what they want. Barnaby is gone. That's all anybody wanted.
Yep.
Barnaby gone. Because
Ma keeps the house. Everything goes well and swimmingly for everyone. So, moral of the story, seize the means of production and get rid of your bankers.
And steal your mortgage.
Steal your mortgage.
So you don't have to pay it anymore.
Yep.
Lesson learned.
Unless there's taxes, I guess.
Do we still have to pay those too?
Maybe. There is a monarch. There's King Cole. He's probably got to get his money from somewhere.
That's true. We had King Cole just sitting in a chair there.
Yep.
He didn't have to get up.
He's not a jolly old soul.
So, what did you think of this movie?
There were some good points. I enjoyed, the comedy was funny, and I enjoyed a lot of the visual gags, but at the same time, the story was just kind of dull.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of times going into these kind of movies, though, with like Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, I'm not really going for the story. I'm going because they entertain me. You know,
I suppose
if they've got jokes
but
going,
I
and
definitely didn't feel like this was their best, the best Laurel and Hardy movie.
see, the funny thing is, this is my first Laurel and Hardy movie that I've ever watched. I actually own this. I watched it on DVD instead of Amazon Prime,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had it for a couple of years, and had never watched it, and now I wouldn't mind seeing a couple more just to see what some of their others are like.
Yeah.
And I would actually watch this with my girls. I think that they would get a kick out of this. So I would actually recommend this movie. I thought it was, you know, don't go in there expecting a masterpiece, but a little bit of comedy in there, a little bit of, physical comedy. And if you like Abbott and Costello type stuff, or if you like other Laurel and Hardy, I would recommend this. And if you've got young kids, that's always a good, this is a good kind of movie for them because it's just, you know, storybook characters and pratfalls and stuff like that. So
what would you pick for your double feature of this movie?
I had trouble coming up with something, so I'm going to go just similar vein, and it's going to be something that's a yearly tradition that I do watch with my kids, and that's the next Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. And I'm going to recommend one where they also meet fictional characters from other stories. Every year, my girls are 9 and 7, and they don't like scary movies. But I love horror movies and Halloween, so our yearly tradition is to watch Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And actually, it's turned into watching that one and then also meet the Invisible Man and meet, there's 2 other ones too. Oh, Meet the Mummy and then Jekyll and Hyde. And I would say that Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is the best one. And it is just really fun, especially if you're a fan of like the old Universal monster movies, to see Bela Lugosi back as Dracula, because he only played him in Dracula. I think there's only 2 times.
2 or 3. He did play like a vampire who wasn't Dracula.
Yeah, for being known as Dracula, he has only played Dracula twice, and one of them was in the Abbott and Costello movie. And then you get Lon Chaney Jr. back as the Wolfman, and then instead of Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster, I think it's Glenn Campbell, maybe?
Glenn Strange or something.
Glenn Strange. That's it. Glenn Campbell.
Glenn Campbell. That'd be very different.
That would be very different. No, Glenn Strange. So actually, this is the second movie I've recommended with Lon Chaney Jr. now.
Huh.
Go watch Spider Baby.
Oh, boy.
It's on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure where Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein would be available. I have that one personally on DVD. But like I said, if you like these kind of movies and you like the Universal monsters, you cannot go wrong with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
I think I like Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man a little bit better just because of the whole boxing sequence.
That is a really good one. I only recommended Frankenstein because they meet several of the Universal monsters, whereas all the rest of them, they're only interacting with one of them, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde. So, but they are good, and I think Invisible Man is my second favorite. So I agree with you with that one.
It does have a great Invisible Man cameo at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, it's voiced by Vincent Price.
Yeah, it's like, who are you? I'm the Invisible Man.
It's such a fantastic movie. So what would you recommend as a double feature for this?
Well, I was thinking about comedy duos. And this one's going to be a little different, but it still is a different comedy duo, sort of like the funny guy and the straight man. I would recommend, in this case, now bear with me, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Because it still definitely has that kind of the same era, 1930s, 1940s.
Yes.
But it also, but the funny guy happens to be a cartoon.
Yeah. And the straight man is a live person.
Yeah, is a live person. Is Eddie Valiant, so.
Please, Eddie.
It's just an all-around great movie, and it has Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny hanging out together, which blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah, well, and there's your Mickey Mouse reference. We had the Mickey Mouse monkey, and now we've got Mickey Mouse in this. And yeah, I am sad that didn't even come to mind, because that's a really good recommendation, because also they're also dealing with not storybook characters, but in this case, cartoon characters, and just all sorts of them coming together. Like you said,
animation and physical comedy combined, just wall-to-wall jokes.
Yeah, because a lot of these kind of movies, you see like generic characters, whereas this one, I remember being a kid and watching that going, the same thing. Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck.
Or the Donald Duck, Daffy Duck sequence.
Yeah, and I'm going, this is amazing. Like, they actually, like, have these Warner Brothers and Walt Disney characters all, like, together intermingling in a movie. This is crazy. So, and it's such a good movie.
Oh, I agree.
I still, to this day, anytime someone is ticking me off in front of me in the road, I will always quote, "I'm gonna ram him." You'll know that one if you watch the movie. the weasels. So
also it has Judge Doom.
Judge Doom.
Remember me? I a voice who talked just like this.
And then you've got Patty Cake.
Oh boy.
That was I think that was a little over my head when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. That has a great mix of lowbrow, highbrow humor, jokes for adults, jokes for kids, and just it's gorgeous to look at.
And it holds up because I did watch that one a couple years ago with my girls, and it really holds up.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, those are our double features. A couple other just interesting things that I was reading up on in this movie is, like I said, the guy who played Barnaby was only 21, and I did not realize that till I read that because they did great makeup on him, and apparently he I don't know, was there a fist fight that I missed with Ollie in the movie, because there is 2 cuts of this movie.
Yeah.
And I wonder if my DVD doesn't have that because I don't remember that. But like, he also falls down off of a cliff somewhere. And apparently at the time, older actors were really ticked off that they didn't get the part. They lost the part to a 21-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And his response was that he was put through a lot of rigorous stuff, and that an older actor could not have done all of it. Like, it would have been too much for them. He said it was almost too much for me.
Oh, yeah. So, that's funny.
So, yeah, so he beat out a bunch of older people, and apparently it was, I don't know if it was Hal Roach that approached him. Apparently Hal Roach produced a lot of movies. I looked at his IMDb page. It was like over 1,000 movies he produced. But I think it was him who saw this kid, Henry Brandon, on like some stage production. I think this might be his first movie. And he saw this old man on stage and was like, oh, that guy would be perfect for Barnaby in Babes in Toyland. And when Henry Brandon came to the audition, he was like, where's the old man from the show? So he's like, well, that was me.
I am the old man. It's called acting.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. Then, of course, we mentioned that Walt Disney was a fan. And this movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes by 15 critics. I think that's valid because it's a good movie. It may not be a masterpiece, but it is a really good, fun movie. 78% by users. And Hal Roach has said that it was critically well received. If you go and read the initial reviews, the critics really liked this movie at the time. But Hal Roach said that the initial run actually lost money.
Interesting.
And there was an original 79-minute version of this. And then later, in 1950, I think, there was a 73-minute edited version distributed by Lippert Pictures. This went through different, it got sold to different distribution companies throughout the years. And Lippert distributed it, a 73-minute edit, retitled as March of the Wooden Soldiers, which is funny because they're in it for like 5 seconds at the end. And it was released without a copyright notice on the front. So it went into public domain.
Interesting.
So this 73-minute cut is actually public domain. And I don't know if it still is. I think I read that that's been fixed now, but at least it was for a while in the public domain, if it's not still, for years and years, because then it aired on television through the 60s and 70s, like I said, at Thanksgiving and Christmas season.
Yeah, kind of like how Night of the Living Dead had the same issue where they did not have a copyright in there at their front credits, so it was in public domain.
And unfortunately, like Night of the Living Dead, they outright forgot to put it on there. With this one, it was on there until they re-edited it and put it out, and then that edit didn't have the public domain notice on it, the copyright notice. And then in 1991, Samuel Goldwyn Company restored and colorized it. And then in 2006, with newer technology, it was restored and colorized again by Legend Films. So it's had a weird history of like being
it is a bit
renamed
bizarre.
and all this stuff.
And I think the version I watched on Amazon Prime might have been the Legend version, but it was restored to black and white.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they restored both. They restored it and colorized it. So,
Okay.
because the DVD that I have has a black and white. I don't know which version it is, if it's the Samuel Goldwyn or the Legend, but it's got the black and white and the color. I watched it in its original black and white. I tend to do that with older movies that they
I did too, because
that they recolor later, because I'm just like, if you're recoloring it, it was a black and white film. Like,
yeah, so much of it is guesswork.
Yeah, so I don't tend to like recolored films.
Mm-hmm.
So Laurel and Hardy worked with Hal Roach quite a bit. He's actually the one who kind of discovered them as a duo.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I think that Hardy was working on films already for Hal Roach, and then Stan came and he wanted to, or I don't know if he came to Hal Roach or Hal Roach came to him, and he wanted to act, but I did not know this, but Stan had really blue eyes, and they didn't show up on the black and white film of that time, and until they came up with this, now I don't think I wrote it down. It's a polychromatic black and white or something like that. So like his eyes would just almost look just white, like he was like, like he was a blind person or something, where it was like kind of like
weird, yeah.
And
till like the film processing sort of caught up with it, I guess.
Yeah, and so then they finally, Roach decided that he couldn't really use him in the movies, so he decided to bring him on as a writer instead. And then I was watching a bit of an interview with Hal Roach, like in his later years, and he said that he saw Stan and or Laurel and Hardy behind the scenes at one point, and was like wowed by their chemistry together, just like interacting with each other,
kind of
like
joking around.
Yeah, just joking around, and said, I need to put these guys in movies. So then he had a contract with them, and they worked together for like 20 years or something like that.
Cool.
And apparently this was the movie that Stan liked to rewrite stuff so much that the director didn't actually do anything. And so this one, apparently Stan didn't like the story or the plot or whatever, and he kept changing it, even though Hal Roach was like, oh, well, he made the plot worse, which, like you said, the story is actually not that great, and I think it's different than the stage production. The story is a little bit. But so this was the one that kind of put him and Roach on the ropes, and then this was made in 34, released in 34, and then I think it was 1941 when they parted ways. Hal Roach parted ways with Stan and Ollie, and they kind of went on to do other stuff. So it was an interesting history there too. So
yeah,
that he kind of discovered them and worked with them for like 20 years on a contract. So, but that's
what we got.
Babes in Toyland, aka March of the Wooden Shoulders. March of the Wooden Shoulders.
Yes, pork shoulders.
This is not pig, it's pork.
Yuck.
So, on to
our next one.
Let's find out what we've got on the docket for next time.
What are you thinking genre-wise?
I'm trying to think of one that we haven't done in a while. We've done a lot of horror. We just did a musical.
We've done comedy.
We haven't done we could go science fiction, thriller, romance.
Maybe romance. Could be something really good or really bad.
Yeah. Well, 90%. Hopefully it's really good. Let's go romance. It's
okay.
I don't know have we ever really done a romance movie
I don't think
yet?
We have.
Well, this could be good then. All right. Spinny, spinny, spinny. Us and Them.
I have not heard of this.
All right, what do we got here? We got 10 years ago on a train home during the busy spring festival travel period, fate brings Zhao Zhao and Jing King together.
So this is a foreign film.
It sounds like it. Like many young couples, they meet, fall in love, and strive to make it work. But eventually the harsh realities of life make them drift apart.
Oh, man.
10 years later, they run into each other again. Will they make the most of this second chance and rekindle what they once lost? This is streaming on Netflix.
Cool.
Sounds interesting. Us and Them. All right, so your homework for next time is watch Us and Them, and then come listen to us rant and rave. Rant or rave.
Rant and / or rave. All right, from Kyle and myself, from the Groucho Marx being Kyle and me, the Harpo Marx, we wish you a good night, good luck, and good night, Ollie.
And good night, Stanny. And until next time, if you want to get rid of your mortgage,
just rip up your mortgage.
Just rip up your mortgage.
Bye-bye.